Hello everyone, it's JD here, CEO of Sight for White and White Sense. Hope you're all keeping warm and safe. It's definitely been a really wet and windy few days across the island, so please do take extra care when you're out and about. Here at Sight for White, we've been busy planning and chatting about our new sensory garden project. One of the things that I'm most excited about is the implementation of snip and take raised herb bed. It's something that will not only smell wonderful, but also let people take away some fresh herbs after our weekly groups. It's just a small, simple idea that connects nature, well-being and independence, and those are all things that matter deeply to us here. The goal is to have the sensory garden fully in place and functional in the new year, which will hopefully mark the beginning of our even bigger vision, which is the development of our new activity space that everyone can enjoy. Winter festivities are also on the way, and the team is getting ready to make Millbrook House look bright, cheerful and festive for the season ahead. As for me, I'm heading into one of those classic end-of-year periods filled with admin, reports, and a fair bit of paperwork. I'm looking forward to seeing the site come to life over the coming weeks. Until the next time, stay warm, stay safe, and I look forward to catching up with all of you as soon as I can.
Here is this week's charity news for the 24th of October. There is no swimming at Medina on Monday due to the school holidays. Our next session is on Monday, the 3rd of November, where new members are very welcome to join us.
There will be no yoga until the new year due to volunteer unavailability.
Coffee and chat is on Wednesday, starting at 10 o'clock until 11:30. The cost is £2 to include drinks and cake. Staff are on hand to help with any queries and to demonstrate equipment.
Mix and Mingle is on Thursday at Millbrook House. We have a waiting list for this group, but if you are interested, please call the office to put your name down.
Our monthly stride is on Friday the 31st. This month's stride will be between Yarmouth and Freshwater. For more details, please call the office.
Our pudding and quiz evening on Friday, October the 31st, here at Millbrook House. The cost is £5 per head and maximum teams of 4 people. The quiz starts at 7 p.m. prompt. Please call the office to reserve a space for your team.
Our annual Christmas raffle is underway, and we thank everyone who have already returned their raffle tickets. Prizes are arriving at Millbrook House, but we are always grateful of any prizes anyone wishes to donate. If you would also like more tickets, please do not hesitate to call the office. We can send more books out in the post. The draw takes place on December 10th during our festive morning.
Our Christmas cards are also available, selling fast this year, with several designs already being sold out. They're only £3.50 for packs of 10. So once again, please call the office if you wish to order.
The deadline date for last orders for calendars and diaries is fast approaching. So please call the office and place yours if you require one.
This is an article from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Terry. Donna Jones raises concerns over potential delay to local elections. Donna Jones, Conservative candidate for Mayor of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, has voiced strong opposition to reports suggesting that local elections scheduled for May 2026 could be postponed for a second time. According to the Times, some county council leaders across the UK have called for the elections to be delayed again due to cost concerns. However, the leader of Hampshire County Council has publicly rejected the idea, confirming he does not support a further postponement. Donna Jones said, "A second delay to local elections would be completely unacceptable. Residents have a right to choose who represents them, and that choice should not be postponed by ministers. Last year's delay was to enable devolution to proceed, but that process is now complete." She added that the mayoral election for Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, due to take place in May 2026, is not affected, but warned that local democracy must not be undermined. The cost of elections is being cited as the reason for a delay, but what value do you put on democracy? Taking away people's voice is wholly unacceptable. The Isle of Wight isn't due to be affected by local government reorganisation, so any further delay here would be unnecessary. Elections must go ahead as planned in 2026. Jones also welcomed confirmation from Councillor Nick Adams-King, leader of Hampshire County Council, that he has not requested and will not support a postponement. Local elections were previously postponed in February 2025, affecting 9 areas involved in the government's devolution priority programme, including Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. Any further delay would now require new primary legislation, meaning a bill would need to pass through both Houses of Parliament. The first mayor of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight will be elected in May 2026, taking on devolved powers across transport, housing, skills, regeneration, the environment and public safety.
New figures show violence at Isle of Wight prison at 5-year high. From Isle of Wight Radio, read by Joyce. New figures have revealed that violence at HMP Isle of Wight has reached its highest level in 5 years, amid growing national concerns over overcrowding and rising assaults across the UK prison system. Data obtained by Legal Expert shows both prisoner-on-prisoner and prison staff assaults at the Newport-based prison, which operates across the Albany and Parkhurst sites, have surged since 2020. In 2024-25, there were 140 assaults between prisoners, up from 33 5 years earlier. During the same period, assaults on prison staff more than doubled, rising from 63 in 2020-21 to 130 in the most recent year. The rise mirrors a nationwide trend, with the Ministry of Justice reporting 10,568 assaults on prison staff and 20,570 prisoner-on-prisoner assaults across England and Wales in the past year, increases of 7% and 9% respectively. Experts have linked the increase to overcrowding, staff shortages, and poor mental health among inmates. Government research published in June found that offenders are nearly 20% more likely to be involved in violence in overcrowded prisons. The Isle of Wight facility held 1,081 inmates in 2024 and forms part of a wider system that has seen the national prison population almost double over the last 30 years, from 43,000 in 1994 to over 88,000 in 2024. Patrick Mallon, a solicitor at JF Law, described the rise in assaults as a stark reflection of a system under immense strain. With prison populations growing and many prisons now officially overcrowded, limited space creates an unstable environment where violence becomes increasingly common he said. In response to concerns, the government has pledged a £40 million investment in new security measures to tackle prison violence, and its Plan for Change aims to deliver 14,000 extra prison places by 2031. A Ministry of Justice spokesman said the government was fixing a prison system in crisis by delivering the fastest prison building programme in more than a century. Mr. Mallon added that both prisoners and staff are legally entitled to protection while in custody or at work. The prison service has a duty of care to protect those in its custody, and prison officers have a right to a safe working environment. These claims are not only about compensation, but also about holding authorities to account and highlighting the urgent need for change.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. Police Commissioner targets speeding and drug driving with new safety fund. A £500,000 funding initiative has been launched by Police and Crime Commissioner Donna Jones to help reduce death and serious injuries on our roads. The Police Commissioner's Emerging Needs Fund is focused on road safety, which is one of her top priorities. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary works hard to tackle the constant challenges posed by dangerous drivers who are speeding and being antisocial on our roads. But we all have a part to play in making our roads safer, and this fund will help us do that. PCC Donna Jones said, "I'm delighted to be focusing on road safety with this round of funding. It's an issue that affects us all, from pedestrians to cyclists, horse riders and motorists. As your Police and Crime Commissioner, I'm here to help you, your family and your communities feel and be safer. This is an opportunity for partners, campaign groups and organisations to bid for funding for things like speed indicator signs, happy or sad digital road signs, kit for community speed watch schemes, etc. There are lots of things we can fund to help improve our roads. What is clear is that one person's actions behind the wheel can have a devastating impact in a split second. That's why I'll continue to work with officers and communities to ensure we deliver safer roads across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. In July, a month-long road safety operation by Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary revealed over 700 fatal driving offences were identified on our roads. 201 tickets were issued for speeding, 71 for using a mobile phone while driving, and 142 for not wearing a seatbelt. 184 arrests were made for drug driving and 138 arrests were made for drink driving. This Emerging Needs Fund is another positive step to bolster Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary's ability to tackle problems caused by speeding and dangerous driving. The Police Commissioner is welcoming applications for up to £20,000 for projects or items which can demonstrate how they promote safer use of our roads and support victims. The application window closes on Friday the 28th of November this year at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and successful applications will be announced at the end of February 2026.
East Cowes Albany Green to be revamped with gardens and community space. From the Island Echo, read by Joyce. A new public meeting space, seating area and landscape gardens will upgrade East Cowes Esplanade. County Hall has granted planning permission for a regeneration proposal at Albany Green in East Cowes, which the council's decision report said will significantly enhance a rather run-down area. Approved plans also include alterations to the existing pumping station at the site, such as external wall decoration and upgraded toilets. A design and access statement from consultants ERMC said existing trees are maintained and further protected. Additional small tree, shrubs, hedging are proposed to increase biodiversity, whilst also assisting in creating a sense of place, whilst partially screening the pumping station. The layout of the ellipse seating area is designed to face the western sunset aspect. It also allows a small temporary stage or raised platform to be provided through the access gate for small pop-up events at key times throughout the year. Creating a place to wait and stop on one's journey along the East Cowes Esplanade will improve the aesthetics of the area and assist in reducing antisocial behaviour, which typically tends to occur in more deserted public spaces. The officer report on application 2545 FUL said, the proposed development seeks consent to regenerate the area through the provision of an area of public realm that would include landscape gardens enclosed by traditional metal fencing that would lead to a mix of hard surfaces and vegetated lawns. The proposal would significantly improve a rather run-down area of the Esplanade, which is a popular attraction for local people and tourists.
Hello, this is Madeline.
And this is Tony in the second part of the Talking News.
Starting with some news items. Hotel blaze fears ignored for years. Boy arrested and building is destroyed. Residents living near a fire-ravaged hotel say they have been warning authorities for years that something major could happen, claiming their repeated reports and pleas for action have been ignored. The disused Signal Hotel on Carter Street, Sandown, was engulfed in flames on Saturday evening, with smoke billowing across the town. Fire crews, including Shanklin, Ryde, Ventnor, Freshwater, East Cowes and Waterlooville, tackled the blaze. Police have since confirmed that a 14-year-old boy from Shanklin has been arrested on suspicion of arson with intent to endanger life and has been conditionally bailed until January. Neighbours say the disaster was predictable, resulting from years of neglect, antisocial behaviour and ignored warnings to police and the Isle of Wight Council. It's been absolutely horrendous for the past 4 or 5 years, one resident told the county press. You try to be a good citizen and report these things, but nothing gets done.
If I'd reported to the police every time somebody went in there, I'd have been done as a stalker. Another resident described the derelict hotel as like a cuckoo clock, with people constantly coming and going, men, women, kids after school and adults late at night. Locals say they have reported incidents dozens of times to police and council, but claim they are passed round and round in circles. Several said they had attended the Isle of Wight Police's local beats meetings to raise the issue. The council told us they didn't even know who owned it, one resident said. It's just maddening and intimidating living next door to it. The once popular 27-room Signet Hotel, which featured an indoor swimming pool, has stood empty for at least 3 years. According to neighbours, it was used during the pandemic to house the homeless after initially closing in 2017, but has since fallen into severe disrepair. Plans to demolish the building and replace it with housing were put forward in 2019 and again in 2022. However, both proposals were withdrawn. Planning documents describe the building as being in a very poor state and no longer viable, with repeated attempts to sell the property failing. The blaze on Saturday was not the first at the Signet. Fire crews were called twice in June last year, initially to a small fire in the basement and returning a few days later to a more serious fire. Police previously identified the building as a hotspot for antisocial behaviour, issuing dispersal orders for 12 local youths. One man said, "People climb over our garden walls to get in. Even when the police van was parked outside, we saw people sneaking in behind them." Another nearby resident, an elderly man, said youngsters have even knocked on his door trying to gain access through his garden to reach the hotel. A couple living opposite said the sight of people entering and leaving the building all day, every day, has become routine. On social media, warnings about people entering the derelict building have been circulated for weeks, with one Sandown resident posting on October the 4th, "People have been seen entering and leaving the Signet Hotel several times a day. It won't be long before a tragedy occurs. Police and council do not respond to warnings from residents."
Full accreditation for endoscopy unit. St Mary's Hospital's endoscopy unit has earned full national accreditation. The Isle of Wight NHS Trust announced that its unit has been awarded full accreditation by the Joint Advisory Group on Gastrointestinal Endoscopy, a nationally recognised mark of excellence for endoscopy services across the UK. The award recognises outstanding patient care, safety and clinical excellence. Laura Neal, Director of Nursing, said, "This is a tremendous achievement and one that reflects the hard work, professionalism and commitment of the entire endoscopy team to ensure our patients receive outstanding care. Well done to everyone involved." Inspectors praised the unit's strong leadership, effective teamwork, patient-centred approach and supportive environment.
Controversial Floating Bridge 6 could be replaced after all. A process to replace Floating Bridge 6 is to get underway after a controversial report recommending the vessel be modified was scrutinised at County Hall. The document was presented to the Economy, Regeneration, Transport and Infrastructure Committee last Thursday, before a unanimous vote to press ahead with a replacement. It said a modification of the ferry involving additional chains would lead to a higher value for money outcome and is the preferred option from the perspective of maximising the economic and social benefits of the crossing. The paper's recommendation stated a new vessel is not affordable and would not satisfy the legislative requirements to enable borrowing to be taken for the capital costs of purchase. Councillor Love, who represents East Cowes, told the Chamber, "Officers state there is no guarantee of fixing the issues with modifications, so we could take a risk of spending £400,000 to £2 million to try to repair something that there are no guarantees at." Council and Alliance Group leader Phil Jordan said modifications had been modelled and ruled out by Southampton University. The chain issue can't be resolved by replacing the chains. We could dispute Southampton University at your peril, he said. Councillor Chris Quirk said he supported the principle of replacing the floating bridge, but said there seemed to be an undue haste. "I think we need to consider this again on an ongoing basis when we actually have the facts in front of us. We need to be sure that what we are asking for is actually deliverable," Councillor Quirk said. The motion passed said an update report will be brought to a January meeting. At that stage, a formal decision could be made on the preferred option for the new vessel and start the tendering process before the beginning of next year's pre-Isle of Wight Council election period. Councillor Chris Jarman highlighted the existing floating bridge's £1 million a year loss. Councillor Nick Stewart suggested amending the floating bridge appeared to be even more risky than looking at a new ferry. Colin Rowland, Strategic Director of Community Services, said the officer decision is based on expert findings, technical, economic and financial options appraisal as per Treasury Green Book guidance. It's informed by outcomes from the expert technical reports of economic and financial. It takes the consideration of the current service as the base case. Floating Bridge 6 has been operating around 95% reliability for the past 2.5 years, 326 days a year. Environmental and operational constraints mean it may not be possible to deliver marked improvements to overall performance with a new vessel.
Council confirms delay of duck crossing signs. Advisory warnings to protect ducklings from being run over next to a lake may take several more months to be installed. The county press reported on concerns for ducklings' welfare at Ryde Boating Lake in May, after distressed members of the public witnessed ducks being run over by speeding motorists. The Isle of Wight Council said they were working to find suitable locations and signage to place some advisory warnings. The signs would warn motorists of ducks crossing the road, where speed restrictions are 20 miles per hour. However, no signs have been erected. In an update last week, the council said, "The main risk to ducklings is around May during the hatching season. The rest of the year, when the wildfowl are fully grown, we do not have any reported concerns. To supply fixed signage on the highway requires a process, which unfortunately was unable to offer a quick solution. We hope to find a resolution by next year's hatching season." Denise Wheeler, a dog psychologist and former veterinary nurse, took matters into her own hands in May by telling motorists to slow down. While Denise said the new statement was promising, she still had concerns.
Have your say on tax initiative. Residents are being given a say on County Hall's support scheme for low-income council taxpayers in a consultation. Local council tax support, which helps around 9,500 islanders, can currently provide up to a maximum 75% reduction on council tax bills, with assistance varying according to weekly income and household type. The council is proposing to maintain all aspects of the existing scheme, including the maximum support level and exceptional hardship policy. Further assistance is available to council tax support applicants experiencing extreme financial hardship through the exceptional hardship policy. Applicants that can receive a 75% discount at present include couples with children earning up to £315 per week. The consultation runs until November 3rd and can be accessed at www.iow.gov.uk/Let's Consultation, all one word.
2 medical centres will merge by the end of 2025. 2 medical centres are set to merge by the end of 2025 as 2 long-standing partners step down from their roles. Newport Health Centre and Cowes Medical Centre will merge, with the Cowes partners Dr. B.T. Parsons and Dr. Jagannatha Boole continuing their roles as GPs. Patients will stay registered with their current practice, with ongoing access as before. The merger aims to ensure the sustainability of patient services at both locations. The combined practices will serve approximately 40,000 patients, offering an increased range of services, more appointment options and better accessibility. Dr. B.T. Parsons of Cowes Medical Centre said, "While Dr. Jagannatha Boole and I are stepping down from the partnership, we will both retain working as GPs at the practice. This is a really exciting time, and we look forward to seeing the combined practice go from strength to strength." Dr. Murto Kaklamano, partner at Newport Health Centre, said, "The merger is about protecting our future and making sure we can continue to deliver high-quality care. We understand that change can be unsettling, but please be assured we are committed to making this transition as smooth as possible. Drop-in sessions will be arranged to discuss the future of the combined practice, with dates to be announced."
Woman urges people to be aware of meningitis. A woman, 7 years on from her brother's sudden death from meningitis, has urged families and health professionals to keep the killer condition at the forefront of their minds. Christopher Davey from Shanklin died on October 10th, 2018, aged 23. His sister, Tony Davey-Taylor, received a message on the morning of October 6, with Christopher asking her to phone him an ambulance. A paramedic arrived to check him over, but as Christopher was presenting as if he had flu, he was advised to stay home. Tony joked that he was acting like he's dying. Later that afternoon, Christopher collapsed and was screaming in agony. A second ambulance was not sent, with Tony told the ambulance service was busy dealing with the threatening emergencies. Christopher then began to have a seizure and his eyes changed. She said, "I don't know if I ever believed in a soul before, not truly, but seeing an essence disappear from his eyes, that's when the essence of who he was had gone. His last words were, "Help me, Tony." Technically, his heart was still beating, but we knew he wasn't actually there. Tony and her husband Rob took Christopher to the hospital, taking 12 minutes to get to St Mary's from Shanklin. Christopher died 4 days later, surrounded by his family. Tony now sometimes has flashbacks when driving to Newport and is stuck with the memories and the what-ifs of that morning, and is urging far more education surrounding meningitis. The symptoms of meningitis are akin to the flu: drowsiness, a headache, and a stiff neck. Christopher displayed these symptoms, but the indicative rash, which distinguishes meningitis with the flu, did not appear until he was in an induced coma. Tony urges people to trust their gut and not wait for symptoms to worsen. She said, "When my son is suffering, I found myself in the back of my mind always asking, is it meningitis?" I probably react too much to that. I have an argument in my brain every single time. Life isn't normal anymore, and I don't want anyone to live like that. Tony is telling her story to help others identify meningitis quickly and potentially save lives. Topics like this are difficult, but they're also important, and just because something is difficult doesn't mean that we should avoid it. It has felt very quiet on the meningitis front, so while the world's not going away, Chris's message is going away, and that's not something that I stand back and watch happen. Information can be found via the NHS website and the charity Meningitis Now.
Pub open again after fire damage. A popular pub ravaged by a devastating fire more than 6 months ago has reopened its doors. The Portland Inn, Gurnard, has been closed since the events of March 25. In the early hours of the morning, fire ripped through the first floor and into the loft space of the building off Worsley Road. Smoke and flames could be seen coming from the roof, prompting a response from appliances in Newport Ryde, East Cowes, Sandown and Shanklin. Firefighters were called at 12:30 a.m. and residents in adjoining accommodation were safely evacuated. Hampshire fire crews were also drafted in to provide support at the site and in maintaining fire cover across the island. No one was hurt in the blaze, which was put out by 6 a.m, but daylight revealed the extent of the damage to the roof. In the months since the fire, work has been underway to refurbish the pub and get it back up and running. Kim Hammond from the pub said the team are excited to reopen. The scaffolding will still be up outside, but looking great inside. Doors reopened last Saturday.
Southern Water has hit back at claims that a tanker was emptying untreated sewage into a pumping station on the island, labelling them false and misleading. Managing Director for Wastewater at the utility company, John Pennycood, dismissed allegations that the Norton Transfer Wastewater Pumping Station, Freshwater, accepts trade waste. He said the road tanker was actually delivering chemicals to the site which assist in reducing odours. It follows comments made at County Hall last week by Empowering Islanders Council Becca Cameron, who said a tanker was recently seen emptying untreated sewage from a ship into the station. the station is close to the internationally important Solent and Southampton Water Ramsar site, which supports wintering wildfowl, important breeding gull, and an impressive assemblage of rare invertebrates and plants, according to the Ramsar Site's Information Service. Councillor Cameron, who represents Freshwater South, previously said local artist Anna Keane witnessed and photographed an incident at the station involving a tanker on July 6th. Ms. Keane had spoken to the tanker's driver, who said he was discharging sewage from a Lithuanian vessel. Councillor Cameron said her question to the Economy, Regeneration, Transport and Infrastructure Committee last Thursday said a lorry or tanker was recently seen emptying untreated sewage from a ship into the Norton pumping station. Southern Water has stated in writing that it was pumping chemicals. Photographs show that the lorry did not have the required signage, and Southern Water has no licence to do this. Will the committee investigate this serious matter and take the appropriate action? Mr. Pennycook said, after receiving concerns about tanker activity at our Norton Transfer wastewater pumping station in July, we have been clear that claims that the site accepts trade waste are categorically false and misleading. The tanker in question was delivering chemicals to the site which assist in reducing odours. The vehicle was displaying the correct signage for the chemicals being used. This vehicle, to be clear, was not carrying trade waste. We have invited those who have contacted us about these claims to visit the site for a tour where we can explain how our treatment processes work.
Discovery of Anglo-Saxon rare treasure. A remarkable rare Anglo-Saxon artefact discovered in Shorewell has been officially declared treasure, and it's unlike anything ever found on the island before. The find, a copper alloy and silver belt mount dating from around AD 550 to 650, was unearthed by local man Keith Stewart in Shorewell on February the 11th last year. It is believed to have once adorned the belt or buckle commonly worn by men across the Saxon world. Decorated in the intricate Trewhiddle style, a distinctive form of art known for its quirky, abstract animal figures, the mount features a zigzag silver border and a small beaked creature with a spotted body, showcasing the craftsmanship of the period. What makes this discovery particularly significant is its rarity. Only 6 similar examples are known across Britain, and this is the first of its kind ever found on the Isle of Wight. Experts say it offers a rare glimpse into the island's Anglo-Saxon heritage, a period often overshadowed by Roman and Norman history. The Museum of Island History in Newport hopes to acquire the piece for public display, allowing residents and visitors alike to connect with the island's ancient story. The belt mount was declared treasure at an inquest hearing at the Isle of Wight Coroner's Court last Monday. Dr. Lewis Ferrero, the Isle of Wight Council's Fines Liaison Officer, was delighted by the discovery. The island is such an important location, one of the oldest settled areas in Britain, and a lot of wealth has been coming to it for long periods of time. The belt mount is so unusual for this area. The design follows the Cornish style of little monsters. We call them monsters because we can't figure out if it's an actual creature. The True Hiddle style is not trying to make their creatures look realistic. They're just trying to make them look weird. The find was reported to the Portland Antiquities Scheme, which encourages members of the public to report unusual finds so they can be properly identified and recorded.
Ferry firm Red Funnel insists its sale is proceeding as normal and its new buyer has entered into a legally binding agreement. It comes amid speculation that any deal is far from complete, and talk of new ferries was just that. Last month, September, it was announced that the private equity firm Njord Partners had agreed to purchase the entire share capital of Red Funnel's intermediate holding company. While the sale is yet to get National Security and Investment Act approval, the accounts of Red Funnel's parent company confirm a sale and purchase agreement has been executed and will be fully complete once approval is received. The county press has been told that Njord has submitted to addressing RF's liabilities and is fully committed to providing necessary capital to support ongoing operations. Work for future fleet developments is ongoing.
Son's fury with graveyard police over missing items. A church is once again at the centre of a row over its disrespectful policy of removing sentimental items from graves. Grieving families say they are too frightened to put anything on headstones at St Mary's Church, Brading, for fear items will disappear. The church's approach continues to prompt anger and disappointment. 2 years after the county press revealed flowers and toys had been removed from a baby's grave and insensitively bagged up. Ray Capon said he was disgusted to find flowers and a memorial rose bowl were recently taken from the grave to his mother and father, Rose and Frederick. Despite the church saying it has told families in advance of tidy-ups ever since the incident in 2023, Ray said he has never been contacted. The church said it genuinely does not know when his items disappeared, but has recompensed Ray for the missing bowl. Ray said the church's graveyard police have made St Mary's a dull and horrible place. Living on the mainland, Ray chose artificial flowers because they last longer, tying them together so they did not blow away. He visited the graveyard on October the 11th, knowing the flowers were likely gone as they have been taken on 3 previous occasions. When he got there, he discovered the rose bowl had also disappeared, leaving a gaping hole in his parents' headstone. Ray went into the community hall to speak to the church warden and vicar. We had this conversation and they were very blasé and said, "Your personal effects are in a box in the church," he said. The church warden's attitude made me angry. Ray could not find the box and was told to buy a new bowl, which the church is happy to pay for as a sign of our concern for his understandable distress. But Ray said the church has behaved disgracefully and with no respect for relatives or the deceased. My wife and I attended this church every Sunday morning for worship, and my mother's funeral was held in this church. We were part of them, so why have they acted so disrespectfully to us, he asked. A spokesman for the church said rules that prohibit artificial flowers and ornaments were drawn up by the National Church of England and have not changed in the years since Ray lost his parents. Since the incident 2 years ago, the church has tidied up the churchyard every 6 months. All removed items are left in labelled cardboard boxes at the church for 6 weeks. We will now make a specific commitment to email Ray 1 month before each time we tidy up the churchyard, to ensure he is aware this will happen, the spokesperson added.
An inquest has been held into the death of a popular and well-known parish councillor who suffered with life-changing injuries following a cycle accident in 2009. Michael David Hales, 76, sustained a broken neck after falling from his bicycle, leaving him paralysed from the neck down. He required constant care, including long-term mechanical ventilation. Mr. Hales died on April the 8th, 2023 at St Mary's Hospital in Newport. His inquest, held at the Isle of Wight Coroner's Court last Friday, concluded he died from severe sepsis linked to complications from quadriplegia and the original injury. Before the accident, the retired heating engineer remained active in local affairs as an elected member of Colborne Parish Council. Following months of treatment at Salisbury Hospital's spinal unit, Mr. Hales returned home to Elm Lane, Colborne, where the community rallied to support him. Fundraising efforts raised almost £20,000 for a voice-activated wheelchair and home adaptations, including a calendar girl-style pub calendar, a clay pigeon shoot, and a fancy dress walk. The injury to his neck impacted every aspect of his life, said Coroner Carolyn Summeray, who ruled his death was the result of an accident.
Shepherd's Hut High Quality Tourism Plan. A shepherd's hut with an outdoor kitchen, sauna and mini meadow could be installed as high quality tourism accommodation at an alpaca and llama farm. N&M Payne have applied for planning permission to site the 1-bedroom structure suited to singles and couples short breaks at West White Alpacas between Wellow and Thorley. The hut proposal will give the farm and tourism destination an alternative revenue stream with greater stability and less reliance on day-to-day weather, according to a statement from Planning and Development Hub. County Hall's public consultation on application ends on November the 21st.
A man has been jailed for the throttling a woman and for subjecting his wife to years of appalling physical and mental abuse. Prince Francis of South Street, Eastbourne, appeared at the Isle of Wight Crown Court on Friday, October the 10th. At a previous hearing, he admitted to engaging in controlling or coercive behaviour and intentionally strangling a female neighbour. The controlling behaviour charge relates to incidents in Totland Bay between November 30th, 2023 and November 30th last year. The court heard that Francis's relationship with his estranged wife had been violent at times and abusive, particularly after drinking alcohol. Neil Drahame, prosecuting, told how the situation became intolerable for his wife after Francis kicked her in the genital area not long after the birth of their 4th child. She became terrified by him and his behaviour, Mr. Drahame said. Francis had also injured her arms by grabbing and twisting them, and he had stamped on her. He called the police claiming she had assaulted him, but when they arrived, he said it was untrue. His wife, however, used the opportunity to tell officers of the violence and abuse she'd endured from Francis throughout their 13-year marriage. On December 8 last year, police received a call from Francis's wife after he had been drinking and smashed crockery. She refused to let him in the property, and he started banging on the door and those of neighbours. Francis then attacked one of them in front of her 10-year-old daughter, squeezing and tightening his hands around her throat. He eventually released his grip, and the victim escaped indoors. In mitigation, Nate Lara said his client's drinking and behaviour stemmed from a failed business venture which scuppered his plans to bring his other 3 children to the island. Mr. Lara said Francis intended to return to India shortly to care for his children, as his mother was not well enough to cope. However, he was jailed for 27 months with a 10-year restraining order. Sentencing Francis, Judge David Melville told him his actions intended to harm, humiliate and degrade his wife, and that he had caused her psychological harm. You acted in a very serious way. It's an appalling story, he added.
Delays and disruption expected. Drivers are facing months of delays and disruption in the new year, with 2 key routes set to be affected by Southern Waterworks. Starting on January the 26th and running to April the 17th, there will be a one-way traffic management system in place from Cowes to Newport. Buses and emergency services will be allowed controlled access during this time. A similar system was also in place from May the 12th to July the 5th, with a brief reopening for the Isle of Wight Festival. Meanwhile, from February the 2nd to April the 10th, another main route, Eleanor's Grove, will close in the Fishbourne to Ryde direction. Southern Water said it met local councillors to provide an early briefing on planned mains replacement works. Letters are going out to explain plans to affected customers and businesses, with public drop-in events to be announced before the end of the year. The works form part of a £5 million pipe replacement project over the next 18 months. Southern Water said the upgrades will reduce emergency works and interruptions to water supply, as well as helping cut leakage. Some of the current cast iron water pipes date from 1866 and are showing signs of wear and will be replaced with modern plastic ones. The second phase of a project to replace 1.8 kilometre of mains started on October the 6th at Rue Street, Cowes, where the company is currently replacing 1.8 kilometres of mains, the longest mains replacement on the island to date. The upgrade is expected to be complete by January 2026. Work to replace a section of main on the A3054 between Shelfleet and Ningwood Hill got underway on Monday, October the 20th. Two-way traffic lights are currently in place, with work expected to be completed by mid-December. Southern Water said works have been carefully planned around summer holidays and the island's event schedule in partnership with Island Roads. Nicholas Marshall, Senior Project Manager for Southern Water, said, While we understand that road closures are never welcome, we've worked closely with Island Roads to minimise disruption and ensure we are able to complete the work as quickly and efficiently as possible.
An Ireland teenager charged in connection with an attack on a badger has appeared before magistrates. The 17-year-old boy, who cannot be named for legal reasons, is charged with willfully attempting to kill a badger. It follows an incident back in February, with police made aware in March. Appearing at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court on October 6, the youth denied the charge. His case was adjourned for a case management hearing on November the 5th. He was granted unconditional bail.
Lifeboat in rescue op after vessel overturns. Freshwater Independent Lifeboat was amongst the first to respond to a Mayday call at weekend after a 16-foot sailing vessel capsized southwest of the Needles Lighthouse. The distress signal issued by the vessel's sole occupant triggered an immediate multi-agency rescue operation last Saturday afternoon, October the 18th. The casualty had been spotted clinging to the upturned hull by the passing Border Force vessel HMC Valiant, which stood by until rescue crews arrived. Solent Rescue confirmed. Freshwater Lifeboat joined Solent Rescue 1 and Solent Coast Guard's Search and Rescue Helicopter 175 in the rescue operation, with Solent's crew manoeuvring alongside the boat and successfully recovering the casualty from the water. After wrapping the casualty in a survival blanket and confirming no further medical treatment was needed, the decision was made to transfer the individual to HMC Valiant for shelter during the return to shore, said a Solent Rescue spokesperson.
An offender with a chaotic lifestyle has been given one last chance to engage with the probation service ahead of sentencing. Joshua Hunt of No Fixed Abode, formerly of Military Road, Bryston, appeared before Isle of Wight magistrates on October 17. The 29-year-old admitted criminal damage, theft from a shop, and 4 counts of assault by beating of an emergency worker. Prosecutor Lawrence McConnell said Hunt returned to Fellowship House in Ryde, where he had been staying, on January the 11th. She said he was under the influence of drugs and went to another resident's room shouting about how he wanted his gear. Hunt kicked a police officer and assaulted 3 others when taken to hospital. Headbutting was involved. On July 4th, Hunt entered Tesco Express in Newport, stuffed 20 jars of coffee valued at around £155 in a bag and left without paying. Rika McMonnies, defending, said Hunt suffers with a split personality disorder and anxiety. She said his life was chaotic and was heavily under the influence of drugs. Ms. McConnies said he had since tried to better himself and needed stability. Magistrates told Hunt it was the Last Chance Saloon and adjourned his case to January the 2nd. Days gone by. The county press has been bringing the news to islanders since 1884. We've delved into the archives. 125 years ago, in October 1900, Island poultry keepers were encouraged to attend lectures on poultry keeping by the Isle of Wight County Council Technical Instruction Committee. The lectures were intended to focus on how to achieve quality and quantity of eggs. Mr. J. Grapes of Terrace Road, Newport, wrote to the county press to comment on trees being planted in the Mount Pleasant area of the town. I am glad to observe the great improvements made in the streets, which are highly creditable to the authorities.
100 years ago, in October 1925, a Lake woman wrote to the county press to complain that the town was starting to be commonly referred to as Sandown West. Clara Porter of Flitcroft said that although the name may not be important to newcomers, lifelong residents such as herself were most unhappy. The congregation at Holy Trinity Church Cowes was treated to a striking address by the new vicar, the Reverend C. E. Patterson. He promised parishioners, guides and scouts he would help the community.
75 years ago, in October 1950, a Newport family celebrated the arrival of a fourth generation. The Whittington family, 94-year-old Mr. W. Whittington, with his son Harold, grandson Richard, and great-grandson, also Richard, of Carisbrook Road, posed for a photograph. Island MP Sir Peter MacDonald questioned the Prime Minister in the House of Commons and asked him to increase pensions, which he believed were inadequate.
50 years ago, in October 1975, long-serving poppy sellers from the Bembridge Royal British Legion were presented with certificates and poppy badges for their continuing hard work. The grape-picking season started at Agyston Vineyard, and it was expected that the bumper crop would produce in excess of 15,000 bottles of wine. 45 tons of baled hay was destroyed when fire swept through a barn at Beeper Farm, Ryde. Firemen had to stay on the scene for over 24 hours to pull apart and dampen down the smouldering bales.
Remembering seamen. While we will be remembering the soldiers, sailors and airmen of the British Armed Forces who lost their lives in conflict on Sunday, May the 9th, let us also remember the men who served in the Merchant Navy. Being an island over here, many men were serving in the Merchant Navy at the start of hostilities. Generally, we think of the First or Second World War, where terms such as the Battle for the Atlantic and the Arctic and Malta convoys have been written about and portrayed in films. The survival rate for men on any merchant ship sunk in enemy action was low. During the Second World War, it is estimated that over 35,000 merchant seamen lost their lives. Some seamen who survived long enough to get back to the island died of their wartime injuries, or their bodies were brought back for burial. There are 10 merchant sailor war graves on the island, proudly displaying the crest of the Merchant Navy. Many more island men have no known grave but the ocean. 65 are remembered on our war memorials. Ships taken up from trade were merchant vessels requisitioned by the Royal Navy. These included some of our local cross-Solent ferries, such as the P.S. Whippingham, which served as a minesweeper during the Second World War. She flew the white ensign instead of the red while in active service. The flag she flew while supporting the Normandy landings is now at East Cowes Heritage Centre. Other merchant vessels played a valuable role in the D-Day landings. The men serving on Trinity House vessels looked after all the lighthouses, light vessels and buoys around the coast.
It was the East Cowes depot of Trinity House who coordinated 5 of their ships, which followed the minesweepers as the channel was cleared of mines. Buoys were laid to show the armada of vessels the safe route to the Normandy beaches. But conflicts since 1945 have also claimed the lives of merchant seamen. Many of us remember watching the first Royal Naval vessels leaving Portsmouth to go to the Falklands. Even more poignant was watching the return of the liner Canberra to her home port of Southampton after the end of the conflict. She was a vessel serving as a hospital ship in the Falklands. 44 other merchant navy vessels were during the conflict carrying fuel, water, provisions, men and armament to supply the British forces. The SS Atlantic Conveyor was destroyed, with 6 merchant seamen losing their lives. When a merchant vessel was requisitioned, the seamen already on board could ask to be relieved from entering a war zone. It was up to the company running the ship to get the man back to the UK, but it did not do its future career prospects much good. It is heartening to see that the Victoria Cross Society were willing to clean not only those graves of service people during their visit to the island recently, but also those of civilians who died. They included the Second World War ARP Memorial in East Cowes St James Churchyard. They also cleaned a memorial at Kingston Cemetery to the 7 men of Trinity House who died while trying to clear a wreck from Brambles Bank in 1894. Thanks go to the many people who help us to remember the sacrifices of civilians as well as our armed forces.
Okay, my view from Imogen Tew, columnist. If you follow the national news, it is unlikely that you have managed to live your life without hearing about imminent tax rises. This is because the countdown has well and truly started for Rachel Reeves' second budget. In about a month, she will stand up in the House of Commons and outline her plan for the country's finances. Last year she admitted she had made some very difficult decisions on tax and announced a barrage of tax increases for employers, second home owners and investors. Now we're bracing ourselves for a rerun. There is no denying that the Chancellor is in a tight spot. There is an estimated multi-billion pound gap in the public finances, some say as high as 50 billion, but the Chancellor disputes this figure. And the Treasury head needs to come up with new ways to bring in much needed cash. But Reeves is tied by her own non-negotiable borrowing rules, so won't be able to borrow her way out of this hole. And before the election, Labour pledged not to increase taxes on working people, so she would have to break a manifesto pledge if she were to raise the rates on any of the big 3 taxes: VAT, national insurance and income tax. All of this means that in the lead up to November's budget, we know 3 things. The Treasury needs more money, it will not borrow more money, and Labour cannot raise the 3 main taxes without breaking a manifesto pledge. The lack of detail so far has left a vacuum, and various potential tax measures have been featured in the media, perhaps to see how they will play out with the public. A mansion tax, scrapping the 25% tax-free cash on pensions, raising income tax but cutting national insurance, fixing the limited partnership loophole, increasing the capital gains tax further. You name it, we've heard the rumours. But the unfortunate result is panic. In my work as a financial journalist, I've spoken to swathes of people who are making financial decisions today based on rumour and speculation rather than sound financial advice. And I don't blame them. What people know for sure is that the tax backdrop is going to be less favourable after November 26 than it is today. So many are thinking, I'm going to make this financial move at some point, so why not do it now rather than wait and see? I certainly don't envy Reeves. She has an unforgiving audience. Her decisions will affect the bank balances and future wealth of real people. But there's also real consequences to the rumour until that is now well and truly churning, whether that's people taking their tax-free cash too early or homeowners pushing through house sales at a low price to beat a predicted stamp duty overhaul. I don't know what I would do if I were the one with the red box and the power, but I know that the current situation is helping no one at all. Would you like me to go out for a minute?
Now for some public information. Businesses and local issues at the heart of my work, from Joe Robertson, MP for Isle of Wight West. It was a pleasure to visit Gatnan Lake Primary School and talk to Year 6 pupils about the role of Parliament and the job of an MP. It was heartening to see and hear both their interest and knowledge. I was asked a wide range of questions such as, "Do you like the Prime Minister?" The obvious and easy reply was that I have not met him, but it gave me a good opportunity to explain that genuine debate about how to make the country a better place can be done without disliking people who you disagree with. Whilst at Gatnan Lake, I launched my 2025 Christmas card design competition, which is open to all primary-aged children in Isle of Wight East. The 2024 entries were fantastic, and I'm looking forward to seeing the creativity and designs for this year. Entries can be drawn on A3, A4 or A5 card or paper using any medium which can be scanned, and the deadline for submission is the 24th of November by post or by email to my office in Shanklin. During a recent visit to Sandown business owners, I spoke with the owners of Sandown Pier about the impact a machine games duty tax would have on their business. At a time when tourist attractions need our support, an additional tax, which is really intended to target online gaming, will affect jobs and threaten seaside tourist attractions if it is applied to 20p slot machines. More generally, Sandown is in need of central government support, and it is alarming to see that another hotel, the Signet, was heavily damaged by fire in the last few days. It is disappointing that Sandown was not included in the recent Pride in Place funding announcement from government. It is a perfect example of a town which should benefit from this type of funding, and I am arguing the case direct with government for it to be included. I'm also looking to work with local community leaders like Ian Boyd and Alex Lightfoot to create a leadership group to help coordinate joint lobbying efforts on a local and national level. I recently joined local supporters of Planet Aware to collect plastic nurdles on Bembridge Beach. Nurdles are raw plastic beads used in the manufacturing of plastic products, which sadly escape into the environment, often during marine transportation. Once you spot them, it is alarming how many you can find spread over all of our beaches. I also met young ambassadors from the Royal Yacht Squadron's Foundation, which supports young islanders looking for career opportunities in the maritime industry. Over £500,000 has been provided in hundreds of grants to support education and training in jobs like boat building and yacht skippering. Finally, I am seriously concerned by news that Isle of Wight Council elections, which should have taken place earlier this year, may be postponed again to May 2027. There is no good reason why the government should seek to deny islanders a say about who represents them locally. All councillors stood in 2021 on a mandate for 4 years, and I have written to the government to expressly rule out extending this to 6 years.
An adaptation of Agatha Christie thriller will hit the stage from today, Friday. The Apollo Theatre Players are set to unveil their next production, an adaptation of Christie's The Mirror Cracked from Side to Side at Newport's Apollo Theatre. The tale, set in the 1960s England, revolves around the sleepy village of St Mary Mead, which is thrown into chaos following a brutal murder. Miss Jane Marple, confined to a chair after an accident, is tasked with unravelling a web of lies, tragedy and danger. Rachel Wagstaff's adaptation of the famous novel brings depth and psychological insight. The director, Carol Diath, said, "We are delighted to be performing this dynamic new adaptation of such a thrilling and accessible classic. It's an enjoyable, suspenseful and often witty theatrical experience that will resonate with Christie fans."
The Isle of Wight Symphony Orchestra concert will be on November the 1st, and it's at 7:15 p.m. and tickets are £17, and it will be featuring clarinet soloist David Campbell, and that's at One Leisure Medina Theatre, Fairley Road, Newport.
Medina Theatre is once again set to dazzle festive audiences as Made to Measure Productions returns with its new Christmas pantomime. Running from December 20th to the 30th, the much-loved theatre company will stage 9 performances of Beauty and the Beast, promising laughter, music and festival cheer for the whole family. This marks the 5th consecutive year the production team has brought Christmas joy to Medina Theatre following last year's hit performance of Aladdin. Scriptwriter and performer Lee Redwood said the process of creating the pantomime is a year-round effort. People think it's just a couple of months. What are you doing for the rest of the time? But we're always working, Lee told the County Press. For me, I love the music in the show, but there's also a really good story. There's a bit of banter on the stage and a great show for all the family to enjoy. After wrapping up Aladdin last year, the team immediately began crafting Beauty and the Beast. There will be 4 days of rehearsals ahead of arriving on the island for a week of technical work such as setting up scenery and lighting before final rehearsals on the Newport stage. Lee explained that the show constantly evolves throughout the run, with extra parts added by performers and tweaks made here and there, meaning no two shows are exactly the same. This year's cast features several returning favourites who have become familiar to island audiences. Che Anton returns for his 4th year playing Silly Billy, promising his trademark humour and boundless energy. Alex Oliver plays Mrs. Potty, following last year's turn as Widow Twankey in Aladdin, bringing sharp comedy and flamboyant costumes. Grace Elizabeth Cooper, who portrayed Scheherazade in 2024, takes on the role of Belle, while last year's villain, Chaz Moray, transforms from Jafar into the boastful baddie Gaston. Lily Mae Bauer brings magic to the stage as the Enchantress of the Rose, and Liam Cunnington stars as Prince Benedict the Beast himself. Beauty and the Beast runs from Saturday, December 20 to Tuesday, December 30. Tickets are available now.
Jazz Jam on the 10th of November at 7:30 p.m. Jazz Jam is a free monthly showcase of the best local talents hosted by the world-class Jim Thorne Trio at Key Arts, 15 C Street, Newport, and that's on the 10th of November.
A correspondent describing themselves as an Isle of Wight veteran writes, "Dear Editor, as a veteran who attended this year's Isle of Wight Armed Forces Day, I feel compelled to raise concern about how the Veterans Parade was organised. For those who have served, Armed Forces Day is one of the few opportunities each year to stand shoulder to shoulder again, to honour the fallen, and to uphold the traditions that bind us. It is not simply a public event, it is a moment of remembrance and belonging. Traditionally, and in accordance with the Royal British Legion's official order of march, veterans form up according to service seniority, the Royal Navy leading as the senior service, followed by the Army and then the RAF. Civilian, charity and community groups are to form up behind the veterans. The Royal British Legion also makes it clear that these are veterans' parades and that civilians cannot take part unless they meet the eligibility criteria. This year, however, several Freemasons, including 3 women in full regalia, were positioned at the front of the veterans' formation ahead of the Royal Naval contingent. To my knowledge, at least 2 of them were not veterans. A Freemason also appeared to take charge of the veterans section, directing a late arriving Royal Navy veteran to the back. This not only broke ceremonial protocol, but disrespected the very people the day is meant to honour. If you are both a veteran and a Freemason, you must decide who you are representing on the day. You cannot be both at once, nor should you expect precedence over those who served. If Armed Forces Day is to continue to attract and inspire veterans, particularly those who have lost touch with their service, the message must be clear. This day belongs to those who wore the uniform. We are veterans, not Freemasons. Please don't publish my name and address."
And from Anna M. Beach of Sandown, don't put private profit before public health. Dear Editor, like Mrs. Docking of Shanklin, I too despair for future generations. However, the difference is that I don't feel that immigration is the cause of the NHS's failure to afford treatment, if that indeed is the case. For that, I place the blame on 14 years of underfunding by the Tory government. Mrs. Docking hopes that reform under Farage will form the next government. I suggest that she takes a long, hard look at the insurance-based health system in America, one whereby it's possible to become bankrupted by medical costs. America has the distinction of having the highest medical costs in the world. It is said that Farage proposes to bring a similar system to this country should Reform lead the next government. Reform is a private company backed by billionaires with the sole aim of further enriching their backers. I don't expect Mrs. Docking to believe that this will happen, but it most assuredly will.
Suzanne Artress Brown of Riot writes, Dear Editor, in respect of the ferry difficulties, one aspect, I think, that is not given due consideration is the cultural impoverished island populace, and within them most acutely our young people. Firstly, let me say it is not my intention to denigrate the island. We have many excellent museums and attractions. These, however, are limited when compared to those available to residents who live on the mainland. For example, we don't have any open-air museums of living history like the Weald and Downland, Black Country Museum, Beamish Museum, and so on. We do not have proper purpose-built theatres, ice rinks, motor museums, museums of industry. The list is endless. There are many excellent museums and attractions clustered around Southampton and Portsmouth, which are tantalisingly close, but to those with even a modest income they may as well be in London, as the cost of travelling those few miles puts up an impenetrable barrier, even if many of the museums in those cities are free. We, as islanders, make up 0.2% of the population. We are a minority, one that has been discriminated against for many years. Governments come and go and do nothing, while two private companies hold us to ransom and stifle opportunities for enrichment, education and entertainment available to every other UK citizen.
New bridge plan dead in the water. From James Arnold, Knighton. Dear Editor, there is not going to be another floating bridge that is 100% clear. At the County Hall Theatre last Thursday, certain councillors voted for a soundbite under the disguise of a floating bridge. That was against all the evidence that it will make no improvement to the frequency of crossing. It was like watching a group of 2-year-olds stamping their feet saying, "I don't care about the evidence, I just want a new one." Playing to the gallery whilst knowingly wasting even more public money is displaying totally disgraceful and irresponsible behaviour. Just get on and build a bridge, whatever the cost. It will be cheaper and more effective in the long run.
Victoria Cronin and Ted Quincy from Bishop's Waltham in Hampshire write, whilst visiting the island for the weekend of October 10 to 12, my friend Ted and I had just really enjoyed a coffee and cake at Cafe Isola in Newport on the Friday. When walking back to the car park, we took a detour by the quayside. Ted suddenly tripped and fell forwards, resulting in a deep hole in his forehead and a badly grazed hand. As he lay on the ground, thankfully not concussed, the blood poured forth from his head, and I tried to stem the flow. Two gentlemen, who had been walking back to their boat from breakfast, appeared from an otherwise empty road and came to our aid. They helped Ted to his feet and were calm and reassuring. They called a taxi to take us to St Mary's, and one of them walked to the end of the road to direct the taxi to where we were. Meanwhile, a lady who had witnessed this accident from the other side of the river cycled over to us with a bottle of water for Ted. These people were all so kind and solicitous, and all stayed until we were safely in the taxi. We would like to say a huge thank you for the immense kindness of strangers. You were all wonderful. At the hospital, we received excellent care. Everyone was lovely. Ted was patched up, and we were able to enjoy the rest of our lovely weekend.
Patients First, from David White, Ventnor, a member of St Mary's Patients' Council. Having read with dismay that Shanklin GP practice is to put all bookings online, I feel this is showing little empathy for patients. The NHS mantra on rules say that all patients should be treated equally, but this practice does not appear to be following this ruling. All medical practitioners are asked by the NHS to put patients first and patients' requirements first, and they appear to be breaking these rules and putting what they want first rather than what patients require. It is important that all surgeries follow the rule of patient empathy, which unfortunately does not always seem to happen, as in this case. I would urge patients to complain regarding this situation and stand firm regarding such a thing happening within their practice. Please remember the NHS dictates that patients should be put first and treated equally. If they do not give patients the option of booking personally by phone or in person, then they should be taken to task, as they clearly are not treating all patients and their needs and requirements equally. I have been a member of the Patients' Council for over 40 years and have seen some good changes and also some diabolically bad changes to the NHS system. For stability, one must fight every inch of the way to preserve a decent, patient-led NHS. And that's all we have time for today, so it's goodbye from Madeline.
And goodbye from Tony.
The BBC In Touch programme follows, and the scaffolding news follows that.
It feels like the car rental company Drivalia doesn't think so. On a recent trip to the island to visit family, we were amazed to receive an email from Drivalia about returning the car to say they had charged my credit card an additional £60 fee for taking the car to an offshore island. Of course, while they pointed out that the Isle of Wight is only a few miles off the mainland and a county in its own right, they were totally unmoved and pointed to the small print in the rental agreement that you asked to sign when picking up the car. As an Australian who visits the island frequently, it never ceases to amaze me how much it costs to make the short crossing across the Solent. And on top of it all off, I now know that you have to pay an extra £60 just to take a rental car on the island.
Books on the
Need is for affordable flats, from Robert Drover in Freshwater. Surely the need on the Isle of Wight is for flats rather than low-density detached or semi-detached housing. Smaller properties would be then available and affordable for first-time buyers and for old codgers, like myself, to downsize and able to afford adequate heating. I would suggest a limit of 3 floors and a modern, elegant design that we as a generation could leave as a legacy. Us baby boomers have enjoyed a huge privilege in terms of property prices. However, this should not be at the expense of our young people.
Every life lost had a future. Dear editor, 2 years ago, the Zionist government of Israel reacted to a horrific terrorist attack by ordering the systematic bombardment of Gaza. destroying nearly all homes and public buildings. More than 66,000 people have been killed and many more devastatingly injured or disappeared, many buried under the rubble of collapsed buildings. Every single one of these individuals had hopes, dreams, loved ones, a future. Whether they died in bombing or drone attacks, were gunned down as they cured for food or medicines, or died of starvation, humanitarian organisations such as Amnesty International and the UN agree they were all victims of genocide. Yet Israel could not have carried out these atrocities without our government's connivance, licensing the exportation of components made in factories in this country to Israel for assembly into fighter jets and sending RAF planes on reconnaissance sites over Gaza to gather intelligence for the Israeli army. A powerful and useful ally for the UK in the Middle East, Israel is a leader in the field of spyware and surveillance technology. American spyware company Palantir operates there, while also creating a massive database of our national health records. Surveillance is a fast-growing industry, penetrating more and more aspects of our daily lives, from facial recognition in supermarkets' checkout machines to planned identity cards. Israel's persecution of the Palestinian people started at its founding in 1947 to 48. Zionist settlers forced thousands of Palestinian families from their homes and lands at gunpoint. They've done so ever since, with military backings, bulldozing many villages in the illegally occupied Palestinian West Bank. Israel operates an apartheid system, banning Palestinians from driving on the highways, making them wait for hours at checkpoints on their way to work, allegedly arresting and imprisoning thousands of men and boys on trumped-up or no charges, and torturing them. This is according to Maggie Nelms of Ventnor.
Available to
Energy costs remain too high. Paul Knocker from Bembridge. Last week, BBC News covered in some detail the latest increase in the cost of energy announced by Ofgem, the energy regulator, whose mission was to look after consumer interests, which they have consistently failed to do so. The reporter explained that the increase resulted from the latest government scheme to help poorer households. Strangely, she failed to mention that Britain has suffered from the highest energy costs in the developed world for some time, which has impacted the cost of living, created fuel poverty, 11% of households in England today, added another cost burden for every business and institution across the country, and contributed to destroying any competitive advantage over international industry competitors. She also failed to refer to a chart published in the Daily Telegraph, which I think originally came from the Renewable Energy Foundation, which shows that the increased cost of the renewable levies, a stealth tax added to our bills to subsidise wind and solar farms, which now accounts for around 30% of our current electricity bills, with every indication that under the present regime this trend will continue.
for White.
And with that, Imelda says goodbye to you all, and I hope you're well and take care of each other. Bye.
Yes, and it's goodbye from Alex as well. Take care.
This is the scaffolding and skips news for the 10th of October 2025.
In the Newport area, 1 to 8 Malthouse Court, the O2 shop, Holyrood Street, 7 St Thomas's Square, Providence Corner Building, Pyle Street and Town Lane elevations, and TUI Post Office Lane.
And the Ryde area, St Mary's Catholic Church, 55 High Street, ex-Barclays Bank, 7 High Street, Ryde Opticians, Union Street, 7 South Street and 9 South Street, the Heron Union Street, 4D Spencer Road, Superdrug 30 to 31 High Street, House of Zebra 12 Union Street, 5 High Street, Bembridge 1 Pier Road, Seaview. And the ride area skips 26 Quarry Road.
Included each week.
In the Cowes area, the Portland Inn, Worsley Road, Gurnard, and 72A High Street.
The back page contains
Cowes area skips 62 York Street.
And the Shanklin area, Nationwide Regent Street, Shanklin Conservative Club, 6 Palmerston Road, 39A High Street.
Designed with.
And in the Ventnor area, Old Town Hall Court, Albert Street, 17 Church Street, and Ashley Villa, Hamborough Road.
For next information is that employers should bear more of the responsibility for meeting the costs of reasonable adjustments for disabled people at work. Now, some people might feel that's not an unreasonable thing for them to do.
I personally think that's not the right thing to do, because I think you then create a culture of somebody coming into a workplace with a burden that the employer might have to think about. So there will be an opportunity to discriminate at that recruitment stage. We've also got this other message coming from government that we want to get more people with a disability back to work, and the support will be there. But that's not what we're seeing. I think it's just a very strange conflict at the moment between these two messages that are coming out.
Amanda Hawkins, Steve Darling, Sassy Wyatt, thank you all very much indeed. Well, the Department for Work and Pensions did send us the following statement. It's been read by a member of our team.
We inherited an access to work scheme that is failing both employees and employers, which is why, as part of our welfare reform, we consulted on how it could be improved. We are reviewing all aspects of the scheme and will develop future policy with disabled people and the organisations that represent them.
Now, if you were listening to last week's programme, you'll have heard Hasib Jabbar explaining that though he was passionate and knowledgeable about computers, he'd been discouraged from studying them further at school and college. But how by distance, he's now doing well with a global technology company. Well, this story seemed to chime precisely with a charity that science and engineering enthusiast Abby Way is in the process of setting up to give support to people who might be in a similar situation to Hasib, keen to make science or technology a career, but not getting the support and encouragement they need to pursue the sciences. Abby joins me. Abby, the charity is called Boomerang. Just tell me a bit more about it and what it'll do.
Boomerang is aimed at supporting and inspiring young visually impaired people into STEM subjects, STEM being science, technology, engineering and maths. These are subjects which are really difficult for visually impaired students to access. Sometimes the teachers don't know how to support the students, and that can result in students being told that they can't take part in experiments or they should just watch their friend do it. Simple things like how to be able to